This is the Audit Committee of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corp. I should talk a little slower than normal, but we have a little time. If you would call the roll to see who's present.
Chair Krasinski,
I'm here.
Director Corcoran,
Here.
Director DeMarchi,
Present.
and Director Zarowski is absent.
Thank you. So because Adam Zarowski's not here and Vita DeMarchi wasn't here at the last meeting, I would ask for a motion to postpone the approval of the draft minutes from the last meeting. And if I could, get a motion for that. Great, I see a
So
motion.
moved, Chairman.
Second.
Great. So all in favor of postponing action on the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all. We have a presentation today by Albert Schneid, Controller of EFC. It's on the quarterly financial reports. Take it away, Albert.
Thanks, Charlie. All right, so required quarterly reporting consists of mid-year update, financial statements, and analysis of those financial statements, as well as a quarterly investment report. These are all everything is in good shape, very much business as usual, based on our past few discussions, which includes the highlights of bill grants and then interest rates. So start with the mid-year update. So this is our revised annual projection versus year-to-date actuals through September 30th. So all line items are either on pace with our expectation or have a sort of a known deviation based on timing. A few of those bigger timing differences are administrative fees, which we get the majority in June. So our percentage projection is 90% as opposed to the 50%, which is on a dead mid-year pace. Interest income on investments, our cash position has been growing throughout the year, which we'll talk about later. So we would expect to see larger income from investments later in the year. Grants dispersed in principal forgiveness, we are on pace with target, but this will increase as bill projects close and receive funds. The SRF admin fee expense account, this is always something that we project to be higher than what the spending projection will actually be. Basically, it's things like Saratoga plan that we would pay out of our fee income. So we kind of project that we're going to pay everything and then usually wind up short. So we are only reporting on year to date what's actually been paid, which is a small percentage of the full projection. And then the project grant revenues. So these are our draws from our capitalization grants, which we will be talking about more in the main budget financial plan. And these we're projecting a very large amount to be drawn in. And as of 9/30, we've only drawn about 29%. However, even since 9/30, we've drawn a significant amount. So we have roughly 400 million available to draw in clean water as of 9/30. And even since 9/30, we've drawn in 225. So we are very much on target to hit that projected number. So any questions before I move to the financials? All right. So on the financial statements, I always like to look at the analysis, which shows the year-over-year changes as opposed to digging through each line of the financials themselves, unless there are any questions on the actual statements. I'll keep going. So the first analysis is the statement of net position. So this is EFC's balance sheet. And so we see a large increase in cash and cash equivalents from those bill draws that we've already made. And then we had a 2024 A closing in April. And so that leads to increases in bonds payable and receivable, increase in direct financing, increase in cash, but then a decrease in short-term financings receivable. So those are all expected changes. Direct financings, we are seeing a larger than usual increase there because of build long-term closings. So as those infrastructure funds close, they are going to direct as opposed to a leverage financing. So I would expect larger than normal increases there over the next few years. And then prepaid debt service, typically we see a large difference there because amounts refunded in our 2014B deal would typically, amounts refunded in 2024B, which were funded 2014B, would have typically been in that prepaid debt service. And but they were funded into a new deal, so they are not. Next is the analysis of revenues, expenses, and net position changes. So this is essentially EFC's income statement. See, we have a significant increase in interest income on investments, again, due to our large increase in cash from drawing in those bill funds. Excuse me. Lots of shoot. And then a large increase in grants dispersed, and that is due to bill grant really starting to go out the door. Next, our admin costs. So our personnel and fringe expenses are up due to higher headcount. We're growing, and then most of the other differences are due to payment timing of payments. So whether something is paid before September 30th or after September 30th, and then as we discussed, that other administrative expenses line is sort of those one-offs that we pay for. So any questions before I move to the?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the line you're just talking about. The SRF admin expense fee account and the note likely to carry over into future years. What do you explain that?
So that is where we use our built up admin fees.
Yes.
So we have Mount Vernon.
Right. Exactly.
That's one. So we're probably not going to get all of that money out this year, but we project it as if we are.
What you're saying is you have this big number.
Yeah.
That's going to probably be a big number.
Yeah.
It takes a little while to work that down.
Yeah.
It'll be a big number. Okay.
Yeah, but just for planning purposes, we put everything in as if we're going to, and then.
So the New York State cost recovery fee.
That's time. That'll be paid in the Q3 or Q4.
At the end.
Yep.
Got it. So that's cost recovery. What about the amount for DEC?
Yep. Those are generally Q4 expenses.
Right. And what's the amount this year?
This year is 4.3 million. We're combining some money that was taken from the CAF grant and the typical 3.5. Okay. So we're the mechanics are improving.
Just putting them together.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so you might recognize that deviation from the old 3.5 number.
Right. Good. Excellent.
Great. So finally is the quarterly investment report. So this is an inventory of investments held by the corporation by account, by type, and then a reconciliation to EFC's general ledger to make sure that that actually ties to what is in our financial statements.
Anybody have any questions about any of it?
Not yet, Charlie.
These days, again, interest rates and everything, so many treasuries, just maybe comment on that. I mean, it's obviously making good money. Like you said, it's showing up and, just continues to be like that. We'll see how that continues. You still have two very old guaranteed investment contracts. I think they're very old. And I think from time to time, you probably wonder what are you going to do with it? So you just, I don't,
So it becomes income we'll use to fund our program. So if once those investment contracts move out of the reserve, which has happened to a lot of them, they are essentially income that the program will use to fund projects going forward.
so I guess I'm wondering, just sort of, again, it's so long ago, we had that financial meltdown, and everybody was reassessing risk, from time to time, do you do that? Just, let's sit around and talk about what could happen and what we're invested in and
Yeah.
how things could change.
Yeah, so we have a weekly investment meeting
Mhm.
where that's exactly sort of what we discuss. We might not discuss the
Sure.
long-term outlook every
Right.
week, but it certainly comes up as from time to time. And I think when we've looked at it in the past, breaking those investment contracts where we would have the ability to
Sure.
wouldn't be financially beneficial
Got it,
to
but
EFC. We wouldn't be able to reinvest those funds
Exactly.
at a rate that makes it worth it.
So right now, what do you guys, again, when you talk about long-term, what do you talk about? What are the topics that you're just sort of, debating?
Well, generally, it is how we're going to fund subsidy, whether we should take advantage of these high rates and how long to go out with our investments. Typically, we fund, in the short term, our main purpose is to fund projects. So we just want to that's our main goal, is to make sure that we have the liquidity to do that on a week in, week out basis. But as we, have a cash buildup, how far should we push that out? And then, what can we offer?
We also have the investment guidelines, which kind of give us those guardrails as to
Oh,
how
yeah.
much we can invest at different time periods,
Right.
like
Mhm.
out. And we also aim to have some diversification, just so that we don't have all our eggs in one basket.
Sure.
So
Right.
We've also expanded our investment meetings to take a look at commodity prices.
Yep.
Because of the inflationary environment we've seen over the
Yeah.
last 5 years. We're now trying to look at trends for building materials, things like that.
It's not exactly hedging, but in a sense, hedging
See if we can see
You could.
trends.
and take advantage of.
Yeah, and we're feeding that information over to Bill's group,
Right.
so they know. So we're just trying to keep an eye on everything.
Mhm. Sure. Okay, great, thank you. Anybody from afar have any questions for Albert?
No, good. Appreciate that additional info.
Good overview, Numbers speak for themselves. Thank you. Thank you, Albert. So I'll call for a motion to recommend that the proposed draft budget and financial plan be accepted and approved and, sent to the full board as ID number 2. So I'd look for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Vita. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Francis. All in favor of presenting this to the board for approval? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Great. We're done with everything we need to do for this meeting. I'd ask for a motion to adjourn the audit committee meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Great. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Our board meeting will